essentially, I felt like every opportunity I was trying was blocked off for me. So I had, like you in the 90s, I had made some money. Then I lost every single penny of it, and I had a roller coaster ride a couple of times. And I just couldn't understand, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep going through this roller coaster? And then once again, I feel like I get into this situation where I have to kiss ass to make money, or pretend to be something I wasn't to get people to like me, or to give me opportunities, or whatever. And I just suddenly got burnt on that. Like, it just wasn't fun after 20 years of doing that, or however many years, 15 years of doing that. And so I started writing these posts about you could admit failure or shame. And the first reaction, I remember people would write, or people would tweet like, after a post, like OMFG. And then they'd kind of write emails to me after that, like, dude, I was shooting ecstasy, don't worry about it. Like, everybody was like privately admitting, I'm like saying, how can you say that? And then they're privately emailing like, oh yeah, like, I was in this or that, or every bad situation imaginable. And so, I don't know, I'll confess, I have a problem, which is that I got addicted to that kind of feedback. So I liked the honesty and admitting the failure, and that was important to me, not just for me, but also it became, we were talking about the word mission earlier, but it became like a mission to kind of tell people that it's not a shame to feel failure. Like, if somebody asked me the other day, what's the one piece of advice I would give to an entrepreneur, if I had to come up with only one piece of advice, and the advice is, and actually the person who asked me that is in the audience with me, Seti, so thanks for that question. But the advice I would give is, just to remember the words, I forgive myself. Because when you're an entrepreneur, it's not about achieving success. It's about having failure after failure after failure, after shame, and then somewhere along the line, something good happens, and then bad stuff starts to happen again. And you're never going to get off that pattern. It's impossible, because we decay and die, and everything we do decays and dies. Not to be depressing, but because it's not a depressing thing. I guess it would turn out to be a very, I've never heard him described as a happy guy, but he was certainly a peaceful guy. So, learning how to navigate that area of low expectations, but also being able to step out into the world and create value is this sort of weird, contradictory overlap that entrepreneurs and successful people exist in. And being able to accept failure and forgive yourself is part of that, because it happens all the time. And you coach entrepreneurs. I don't know if you've seen that or see that on a daily basis.
Every single day.
Every single day. Example.
Well, a good example. He wrote a public blog post about this. So it's a new client. I've been working with a guy named Rand Fishkin, who's a CEO of CMOS. And we were doing a session a few weeks ago, and he wrote about it this week. And, he's, I think, 27 or 28 years old, and he walks with a cane, and his back is so bad. And there's nothing structurally wrong with his back. I'll say that again. There's nothing structurally wrong with his back, but he walks with a cane. What the heck is going on here? Is this why he started a company? So he'd be in that much pain? And what it is, it's a fear of failure. And that fear just keeps him up at night, keeps him away from his wife, keeps him away from taking vacations. And
sorry to interrupt, but I think people think, and I've noticed this a lot, and I've noticed this a lot for myself, people think that unhappiness is a currency. So if I'm unhappy long enough, that means I'm doing something right. I'm putting in, I'm working 100 hours a week, so I'm unhappy. I'm sacrificing relationships, so I'm unhappy. But it's all to achieve some later postponed happiness, like I'm gonna sell my business.
Yeah, Randy Comasar calls it the life deferment plan. You know, somewhere down the line, I'm going to live, but right now I have to work.
Right, I think in the course of that, people think that, or somehow they've been taught, and maybe you know the answer to this, that somehow they've been taught that happiness or this life deferment plan is an acceptable way to live. You know, that it's acceptable to walk with a cane even if you're perfectly healthy, because at some point this will buy you healthy, you know, a healthy lifestyle.
Well, let's examine that, right? How many people have heard the phrase work is a four-letter word, right? If you're not working, there's a quote Tim's been cycling through. I once had a client who said, if I'm not panting, I don't feel like I'm working. Where did we get this idea?
It's funny, you know, it's a reminder story actually of Gandhi. So Gandhi told all the people, you know, Gandhi basically lived off the checks of all of his supporters. And one person we had told it was very expensive to keep Gandhi in poverty. So, so Gandhi wanted to have all his supporters there, and he said, I need, just so you guys know, I need to spend an hour a day meditating. And the supporters said, no, you're too busy. You can't spend an hour a day meditating. And then Gandhi said, well, you're right. I need to spend 2 hours a day meditating. So, because when you think you're that busy, you really need to take time for yourself. So, whether, you know, a lot of people say to me, you know, somebody asked me today, what's a time management tip? There's really no such thing as time management. A lot of people know the answer already. If you watch, you know, junk TV, all right, you could stop that and save, the average American can save 4 hours a day. So, or if you surf mindlessly, if you read the newspaper, you could probably save a half hour a day. Because what's in the newspaper? I don't know, what were some headlines today? Somebody said to me 2 or 3 days ago, aren't you glad Sandusky went to jail? And I said to him, who is Sandusky? And I started to explain, and I said, you know what, that sounds horrible. I don't even know who this guy is. Because what do you need to know? That what do you need to, and I've written for almost every newspaper out there, and you were a reporter, and they have to sell news. And they have to sell news today. So what's gonna make you buy news today? Only 2 things: fear or greed.
Yeah.
So greed ran out in the 90s. So we only have fear left. And so all the evidence, look at the newspaper tomorrow, and you'll be able to see it's only going to be fear. And thank you for coming here instead of watching the vice presidential debate. You know, there's all sorts of like basic things where people forget to focus on themselves first. Oh, I gotta read the news, or I gotta surf the web, or my downtime is watching, I don't know, what's Malcolm in the Middle or some show like that. I don't know, what do you do on time management?
My line is I don't think there's really any time management system out there. I think what we're all looking for is anxiety management systems. You know, we're looking to figure out a way to feel less afraid. We're looking to figure out a way to feel whatever, and we think that by somehow getting ahead of our schedule, we're going to stop being afraid of failing. And it doesn't work.
What do you mean by ahead of our schedule?
Well, if we get on top of things, you know, if I mean, I'm not a huge fan of big, unanswered email inboxes, but how many people are sitting here thinking about, watch this, email, how many people felt anxiety? Oh, I didn't check my email, right? Chill, it's okay. How many people in the room got a life or death message on email in the last year? 1. 2, real life and death? On email? Okay, we want to hear more about this. But the vast majority of you don't. And the vast majority of your messages are not life and death, but they just feel
would say go up in terms of social media, communication, and so on, or the cell phone. But I would say the same thing about cell phones. Like sometimes you get emergency calls on cell phones, but rarely do cell phones create memories. So if you think back to your past memories, you're not going to think, yeah, I was walking on H and I had this great phone call with my friend. Like, you did something with your friend, or you did something for yourself. And people often, are sucked into the communication and thinking that communication itself is great, but it won't create a memory and it won't allow you to sort of take a step back and say, I am afraid right now, or I'm feeling bad about something right now. Because it's only when acknowledging that you can take the first step towards, not necessarily feeling better, but at least cooling down this anxiety you feel. So, like if you come up with an entrepreneur who's, let's say a CEO comes to you and he's feeling super anxious, and he calls you, Jerry, I'm flipping out, lost a customer today, don't know if the business model is correct, the customer went to our competitor, what do I do? What's your typical answer to that?
Well, my typical answer is I once wrote a post that said, first thing you should do when your hair is on fire is stand still, right?
I'll burn to the ground.
Right. Stop, drop, roll, right? Think about what's going on. Really analyze the situation. Almost invariably, the decision you make from that panic place makes the situation worse. It's very, very rare that the instinctive reaction that kicks in after we are panicked is the right step. So you should start, I loved your story about Gandhi. I'm not suggesting, I don't think anybody will do it, that what they really should do is go sit and meditate for an extra hour. But there's something implicitly wise in that response, which is whatever it is that you think you're going to do as a response to a lost customer is probably not